moving on to our first panel of presenters. This is AI in built and digital infrastructure, and these should be the people who are presenting. So if you are presenting, please would you come up and maybe sit here? And you are in the room.
Well, hello, everyone. Thanks so much, Ariel and Malvika, Lele, and everyone who's been involved with the Turing Way. So I'm Alex Boy. I'm the founder and CEO of Intercultural Roots for Public Health and also EcoGPX Limited, which I'll speak about in a minute. And a big thanks to all of these people who are practitioners within Intercultural Roots for Public Health. It's at least some of them. There's a network of over 800 practitioners of different types of embodied and in-place arts. They're practitioners, and some are also scholars, like myself. So thanks, Ariel. So Intercultural Roots is a UK-based charitable incorporated organization. We were kind of founded in 2015, but actually first registered in 2018. And our kind of mission is around arts for health, an ecological public health, but also the environment and social change as well. So we integrate environmental sustainability, mental health, and social inclusion in our research work, our practice as research, very community-centered, and particularly serving underrepresented groups as well. As I said, there's over 800 practitioner scholars worldwide, and we deliver online and in-person projects and courses. We were recognized just in November by the British Academy as an independent research organization. And of course, we're very happy to have been part of the Turing Way Practitioners Hub. EcoGPX Limited, I'll talk about in a minute, is a kind of charity spin-out that's our place-based technology. As I say, we kind of bring together arts, community, and technology into our work. I'm going to introduce two case studies. This one is really some of the work that we've been doing over a couple of years now. You know, with a community of over 800 practitioner scholars internationally, it's we gather a lot of information about the practitioners we capture that through a Google form. And one of the things that we try to do is support kind of peer-to-peer connections between the practitioners, but also support this community to propose ideas and to collaborate and to support potential funding applications. So that's been very successful, particularly when we use some of the AI tools that are available to help us inquire what the connections are between the practitioners and map that against the objectives of different funders, etc. So just in October, we were successful with an application to the British Council for an international collaboration grant. It's only one of 24 that's been funded this year out of 1,400 applicants globally. So, you know, we feel that our approach really helped us to align with what the British Council wants. And now that project that's working with a Afro-Brazilian trans capoeira vogue artist called Puma Camille is actually up and running and doing amazing work. I'm in Brazil in April as part of that project. And Puma will be coming to the UK in July if you want to get involved in her work. So yeah, I don't want to say too much more about that, except you know, that it's just an example of how this community, by bringing technology into the creative industries, can really help to nurture ideas, really help us then to support those ideas and bring to fruition, right? You know, the kind of manifesting of that. The next kind of case study I want to go on to is thinking about the evolution of an app that we've developed called Places by EcoGPX. And this came from some work that kind of really started during the COVID pandemics when, you know, practitioners and artists and creatives, they still wanted to connect and make meaningful work during them. So a lot of this work began from going out into the nature, connecting to nature, and then bringing this together through technology in order to share it with one another. So early intercultural roots projects like Ripples and Human Nature Connect led us towards EcoGPX. Here in these images, you've got a kind of opening of the app. That's the Cow and Calf Rocks in Ilkley on the left. And this is the Hyper Studio at Coventry University. This is an example of a score, which is like text overlaid on an image. It's an invitation for someone to interact in some way with their environment. It's very much a place-based technology. So I'm going to, in this case study, break it into 3 parts: what we've been doing in the past, what we're currently doing in the present, and our aspirations towards the future. So there's 3 slides that build this case study, which will be the one that we're working with the Turing Way and to share with BridgeAI. So, you know, we took this concept of connecting with nature and working with, you know, in-person residencies, bringing artists together to share their practices with one another, but also to be with the environment, the landscape. So going to places like Ingleton up on the limestone pavements, or in caves, or, you know, coastal areas in Pembroke and Wales and so on. And we found that was extremely beneficial, particularly when there were experts there who know the local flora and fauna and environment and can provide a lot of local knowledge. So we thought, right, how can we share this experience with more people? So we decided to develop an app where democratically those artists involved can all contribute media, videos and scores to a repository so that can be shared with a wider group. And we were successful with a Creative Catalyst Award with Innovate UK for £50,000 to develop this in Bradford and Ilkley. And then last year, we completed a successful 6-month project funded by Innovate UK for £100,000 called the Launchpad Coventry and Warwickshire. That was a really, really wonderful project that worked with co-creative artists coming from some of the most considered deprived areas of Coventry, drawing those artists. So I describe it a little bit like a tree. So the roots of the tree were kind of consultation with people in those local communities considered disadvantaged, working with the local artists, so rooting into the community. What were the issues, the challenges, the hopes, the aspirations? And then drawing those artists together into residencies and co-led peer-to-peer workshops to make meaningful art that responds to those issues. So this is like the trunk of the tree. And the branches of the tree were to use the Places by EcoGPX app that we developed, again, to share the media, build a repository. And in some ways, you know, because it's available on mobile phones, it's an augmented window into the culture of a place. And it really uncovered a lot of what's happening somewhere that you wouldn't usually understand. You know, when someone's labeled as deprived, you don't really see the value of the culture and what's really happening in a place, you know. So these were some of the co-creating artists that we worked with in Coventry. I don't think it's by chance that we worked in Bradford and in Coventry, where they're very kind of multicultural, diverse communities. And it was just great to bring some of this Innovate UK funding to places and people where it was really needed. This is an example of a video, again, at the studio in Coventry. This is directly from the app on the phone. And it's just, again, giving that example of place-based technology. It's not a social media that's up in the cloud and algorithm feeds or something like that. It's really about, there's a proximity algorithm. So the media that you see is proximal to your geolocation. Does that make sense? So presently, we're developing something called Extending Nature. We're waiting to hear from Innovate UK's Mindset XR. So in the Coventry Launchpad project, you'll have read there some of the independent evaluation results included, you know, the notion that nature connectedness is very good for mental health. So we decided, working with a clinical psychologist, to focus on generalized anxiety disorder. So, you know, although we're coming from the creative industries, it's having benefits for health. This is an issue that affects 1 in 6 people at any particular time and results in a lot of costs, not only to the NHS, but also to employers in terms of absenteeism and presenteeism as well. So we've put in an application. We're developing this idea to really benefit a lot of people in the UK and hopefully wider. Moving. Oh, I just wanted to share a couple of more images from our work. You can maybe see that often we work in studios. There's this notion of studio-ness, but also village-ness. So our work's very connected to the arts, the creative industries, but taking it from the kind of laboratory out into the wider world. So this is from a Human Nature Connect in Yorkshire. And this is also part of Human Nature Connect. It's a group of artists in Accra in Ghana as well, up on the top left. Moving forwards, and I presented this at the AI UK on Monday, and it was selected as one of the kind of laboratory innovation lab discussions. Actually, it was fantastic. And our idea is to develop EcoGPX, something called Memories by EcoGPX, to benefit people who have dementia or Alzheimer's, and of course the carers, the families and friends around those people as well. 1 in 3 of us statistically are going to develop dementia. So maybe it's something that's really, really important. You know, the idea is that families and friends and carers can contribute media into a repository, similar to the mapping of culture that the Places app is doing. The Memories app is about mapping memories to help remind someone with dementia of their identity, but also to give the carer a break, right? That when the person maybe is utilizing the app through their device or a headset, if we bring kind of more immersive technologies into this, that, you know, it can help. There's the notion of reminiscence as well, and the potential therapeutic benefit of this. But once again, it's coming from the creative industries and utilizing a lot of technologies in there. And we feel that AI has got the potential to help with this kind of, you know, kind of looking at and connecting all of the media and the stories and experiences in here to really give that person a bespoke experience. This is our team currently. We're the EcoGPX Limited company is a research technology organization. So a lot of us are PhDs, but also supported, like Derek and Peter, people from the industry as well. And increasingly, we're attracting more people with a particular AI expertise, such as at the AI UK. Some of the BridgeAI experts were really interested, particularly in the memories by EcoGPX app. And lastly, I just want to shout out a big thanks to the Turing Way. We really feel that in terms of community and expertise, we've benefited through open and responsible practices, really learning about those. We're developing these 2 case studies, which will help with our visibility. The workshops, tailored support have been really excellent, really deep and informative, and amazing resources too. And events like this to be able to network and find pathways towards funding these really important initiatives, and of course aligning with strategies. I really feel if we can put some really heartfelt ethics into AI, it'll be okay. But there's things that we don't want to put in AI at the same time, and so we have to guard against that. So this is the cathedral at Coventry. Again, this is just scrolling through the places by EcoGPX app. That's Ben Spatz doing some of his song action work at Coventry University with the group. So thank you very much, everyone.
So much, Alex. We will take questions at the end of this session.
Right, morning everybody. My name is Nicky Garland. I'm the Training and Communications Manager at the Archaeology Data Service. I'm going to present our case study today, which you might consider maybe pre-AI, building the infrastructure, building the foundation for hopefully our plans for AI in the future. So just a little introduction to the Archaeology Data Service. We are based at the University of York, and we're the leading digital repository for archaeology and heritage data that is based in the UK or undertaken by UK-based archaeologists. We've been around for quite a long period of time. We were founded back in 1996. Our director likes us to point out that was 2 years before Google. I'm not sure how impressive that sounds now, but there we go. We essentially curate and preserve our digital data that's created through archaeology, which is becoming increasingly more born digital, essentially. So all of the archaeology is a destructive process. We excavate into the ground and we destroy the remains as we investigate them. So it's even more important to preserve that data, and that's why we've been around for so long and been able to amass the amount of data that we hold as well throughout that period. So now we hold around 4 million unique digital objects in more than 300 different formats. And I think as of last week, we're up to about 4,500 different collections, which might form one small excavation in the ground or one large infrastructure project like HS2, for example. So we have a huge amount of data that we take care of and we curate on behalf of archaeologists who deposit with us. And importantly and vitally, all of that data is available as open access resources for other people to use. So we provide it via our website to enable research and teaching and innovation more generally. So our case study kind of focused on my aspect or my element of the ADS, which is under training. We do a hell of a lot of training at the ADS in data management and digital preservation and basic elements like how to deposit your data with us at the ADS. But unfortunately, most of that material isn't available in the same way that our collections are available. So we share these resources, a vast amount of resources that we create with the people that we train, but it's not seeing much more extensive scope beyond that. And that includes a series that we have produced since 1998, which is called the Guide to Good Practice. You see this kind of acronym, the G2GP. This is kind of widely cited in the archaeology and heritage sector, but it requires updating over time, as you may suggest. So although we did a guide to good practice back in the early 2000s on GIS data, for example, vector and raster data, that needs to be updated as we go along. And the format of those guides have been updated as we've gone along as well, from essentially print versions to a wiki format, and most recently some pages on our WordPress instance for the website, which is really inaccessible. It's really difficult for people to find the information that they want. It's been a bugbear of mine since I started at the organization. It's been something that we've wanted to change. So that was our goal with this case study, was to try and align our training resources and the guides to good practice with the core values that we have for the rest of the organization, which is open access resources that are fair and available to all. So that's what we tried to go about. And the way that we approached it was to treat all of these resources as open educational resources, or OER, which is defined here by UNESCO, learning, teaching and research materials in any format and medium that have been released under an open license that permit no-cost access, reuse, repurpose, adaptation and redistribution by others. So it's quite a lofty goal, but it's also a very important one in terms of ensuring that this material is available and accessible to all. And it obviously feeds into the Sustainable Development Goals, which is something that we try and support through the repository, is a greater amount of sustainability, particularly when it comes to quality education. So we had a two-pronged approach, which recognized that some of our training materials required maybe a bit more of a bespoke approach in order to make them accessible for archaeologists in the way that they want to access and reuse that data. And then we took inspiration from the Turing Way and thought about the guides to good practice in a format which could be more accessible and more interoperable, which is the kind of Jupyter book format. So we tried to go two different ways. One which was much more of a custom training portal is what we've tentatively called it, although if anybody has any better titles, that'd be great, thank you. And we've also just done the kind of basic things that we do with all of the resources that we hold. We give them persistent identifiers, we give them a Creative Commons license, and we try to make the resources findable and accessible. So that's what we tried to do through our learning through the Practitioners Hub, and we tested out a version using one of our old Guide to Good Practice, worked out the bugs, tried to figure things out, and then applied it to a brand new Guide to Good Practice, which came out earlier this year, which was for marine survey data. And this is part of a project that we're involved in towards a national collection, which is called the Unpathed Waters Project, and it's to create, or we created or helped to create a portal which allowed people to access marine data, historic marine data. So this was a guide to good practice for people who create marine data in the way that they can manage and preserve their data. And then our lead developer, Bradley, created a bespoke element within our WordPress instance, which allowed people to access some of the resources that we already have created through our training program and make them more accessible and align with those kind of open licenses and persistent identifiers and X. So that was our technical implementation. We learned a lot, I think, as I think probably all the people could say here from our experiences in the Practitioners Hub. We learned from all of you as different organizations and the practices that you undertake, but we also learned quite early on that we were needing to update our infrastructure, update the things that we took for granted to a certain extent before we could start thinking about AI implementation and think about how we could create resources that would help archaeologists through the materials that we already had. And we realized that saving them on our shared Google Drive probably wasn't the best way to go about it. And maybe we should think about more open and fair principles in terms of sharing these resources. So yeah, I just want to echo what Alex was saying earlier. It's been a great opportunity, and thank you very much, and thank you to all the organizers for such an interesting few months in these sessions. our next step is to essentially expand this, backtrack for quite a few guides to good practice that we've produced over the years. They need an update anyway in terms of content, so we're now going to migrate them all over to a Jupyter Book format, and now a Jupyter Book 2 format, now that that new format has come out. Thanks again to the Turing Way for providing some guidance on how to do that as well. And our training portal is going to go live very quickly. As we've kind of slowly came to the end of trying to put this online, we realized there are other things that we could do in terms of controlled vocabularies, enriched metadata, things like that, that we already do as part of our collections, but we hadn't done in terms of kind of the training materials world. So we're now exploring that to kind of link into the launch of this training portal, which should hopefully come out in the next month or two, which should be great. And the long-term vision is then to create more fair materials and hopefully implement some sort of AI system that would help us in the future. And we embrace the kind of community model that the Turing Way has, which is to allow people to advise us if they want additional information that we don't provide, and improve the information that we are putting online as well. So that's where our GitHub-based community collaboration is hopefully going to come into as well. Thank you very much.
Okay, you're all good.
I'm all good. Okay. Well, you just missed an incredible 2 minutes. So, you're gonna have to we'll have to meet later on. Yeah. So we're also pretty concerned about the erosion of professional competence over time, because if it gets to a point where we're relying on machine learning for decision making for too long, how are we going to retain the knowledge to begin to question that that model in the first instance? That doesn't work. And I think, you know, I think it's really, really important that some of these things are addressed. Incorporated, I suppose, within an architect's training is an understanding of the importance of safe building design to reduce the potential of harm to users. And I suppose despite the failure of the process in the devastation of Grenfell, further erosion of principles of safe building design and construction risks realization if the decision-making agency of agentic tools erode oversight on the process of decision-making fundamentally. So now architects are, of course, grateful for the positive social and environmental impacts that AI promises within our sector. These videos, for example, show student Oscar Maguire's work. So Oscar explored the potential of using probabilistic simulations as part of a creative process for design for his work. So we know that there are huge positives, and certainly AI tools also provide, you know, immense potential for the representation and communication of work for architects as well. And we think that really democratizes design in a way that can and will provide for more participatory involvement in design. I think working with the Turing Way has really been essential to understand how we can begin to organize our response to some of these issues raised by the introduction of generative AI. Firstly, to maintain professional control and ensure sound decision-making, I think architects need to understand the rationale behind AI's recommendation to maintain control and oversight. And secondly, I think we really do need to fundamentally redefine our professional competencies, specifically to revisit decision-making if augmented by AI agents. And I think specifically if decision-making is augmented by agents, what does that mean to the concept of professional competence and the requirement to have full oversight on the process of design, not just the inputs and outputs, which is what AI currently does. I think we believe it can be addressed in future by working with local authority council departments to review the impact of AI tools on planning and building control approvals. We also think working with professional indemnity insurance companies to explore the impact of insurance cover for responsibility for decision-making. And then finally, perhaps most fundamentally involving design software developers to encourage open and transparent means of machine learning software. And I think kind of finally, I can just get this to work. Yeah, finally, I think all this needs to happen through discussion and the sharing of concerns and opportunities across the building sector. So last month, leading on from work completed at the Turing Way, I was able to organise my own little summit across key stakeholders within architecture, including software developers, and invited speaker Lele from the Turing Way team, exploring these themes of openness and transparency up in Lancaster in the north of England. It's the winter gardens, freezing cold, remember? Absolutely freezing cold. But I've learned that it's only through truly open discourse via initiatives such as the Turing Way nationally, and I suppose through local and regional enterprise, that we can share, organise, and more importantly, mobilise to retain agency in the development of these tools in future. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Des. Do we have any questions online for Des? I might go rogue and say, do we have any questions for Des in the room? Liam has a question for Des in the room.
Really interested in your kind of problem statement around justification of decision making. It's something that we've been working on as well.
Which sector is that? Sorry, just
that's an interesting question.
Oh.
So I'm going to say construction, manufacture, and transport, but
okay.
not health yet. Yeah.
Right.
We do a lot of work with national highways, and I'll talk. I mean, I'm about to present on it later, but it would be really great to understand how you're attacking that problem of justification of decision making. So what we found is that you can't do it with first order logic because that's not how humans decide. Yeah. So we've looked into toolmin architectures. If you remember the T presentation from 2 face-to-faces ago, we were working in a similar area, and that idea of how do you build out, here's the evidence, here's the quality of the evidence, here's the logic of how you get from the evidence to the conclusion, as if it was a legal argument.
Yeah.
So have you made any steps in your work towards a framework for the justification?
No.
Cool. We might be able to help with that.
Bluntly, we haven't, because we're still struggling with the concepts, I suppose, because design, I suppose, is a wicked problem in that it has a billion possibilities. It's not Boolean, so that is problematic in and of itself.
So we'd class it as an abduction problem, where it's very little data, where you're trying to build hypotheses against it and pick the loveliest and likeliest.
Okay, can I pick your brain later?
Absolutely.
Concept of picking.
But we've got one more question, and then Malvika, did you? Okay, 2 more questions in the room. Please do get your questions in on Slido as well. Oh, is that on?
I think so.
Okay, great.
All right. So my question is simply, as being a person that's on the AI side of this, right? I've generally found that when the moment you start sharing data, very great for people to read, really horrible for my AIs to read, right? So the question is, if we're really going to embrace this, we're going to have to start looking at how do you actually tell the AI what you're thinking so that it can think the same way, right? Have you got any, as the person that's responsible for the AI, have you got any suggestions or ideas on how do we approach that?
It's a question that I always find myself asking, which is that the kind of fine-tuning of the model, it effectively creates a personality of decision making. So the model will decide one way or another if it prefers to go. And part of the conundrum I think we're all faced with is what are the personalities of the models that we're generating, and why do they have a particular value system?
Yeah.
And I think that's why it's important now to speak about and have a shared framework of values to understand what is right and wrong fundamentally. So I think it comes from value systems rather than personality systems, I guess.
Yeah. No, I agree. I just want to, I'm going to just respond to that one. I'd agree with you, but the thing that we've currently got, which I'll put out there, anybody that's involved in AI, machines don't have personalities. We infer personalities on them, right? And it's that thing of that you basically coming from, there's a lot of, they're just assuming that, oh, you're an architect. Well, my AI is not an architect. It's a machine. You need to tell it how to act as an AI, how to act as this, how to do it. And a lot of that information is not currently available to even train on. But we seem to have forgotten that we need to sort of train the machines to do this if we want them to do it. And even if when I contacted a lot of the universities, they're like, well, we don't know. You want to come and sit in the class? I says, I can't bring my AI. It's not good. But that's the thing. I just wanted to know that those things. But thank you.
Maybe we can chat later.
All right.
Definitely. Thank you. And we've got one final question from Malvika.
To avoid over speaking, I put that in Slido. Alex, can I ask you to sit there so you're visible? Because this question is for all three of you. So that seat is not visible, but those two are. So in my conversation with three of you, what came up is both that AI is allowing professionals to improve their workflow, but it's also making non-professional be involved in the process. I can see that from Alex's point of view, that's an amazing thing. But from Des's point of view, that could be disastrous because people may not understand where the accountability sits. And I think what you're trying to do is upskill people from, professional, non-professional point of view. So my question is for all of you, what do you make of that? Is AI making more benefit than harm, putting all of these skills in everybody's hands?
I don't like starting. Yeah, it's a really good question. I think in some regards, the access to all the various AI tools that are publicly available at the moment is doing something to benefit equity, particularly for smaller organizations or artists. I guess one of the drawbacks of that I'm seeing, though, is, for example, in funding applications, funders are seeing many more applications than they would usually receive. I think that AI is enabling and empowering people who may not otherwise to, level the field in terms of being able to use the tools for to promote their work. But then at the same time, that's what I was sort of referring to when I talked about the ethics and and somehow giving AI heart, right? And coming from a good ethic, that I can see the potential dangers that it might propose as well. Yeah.
I can go next if that helps. I suppose in the specific instance that I was talking about, there's a huge amount of material out there on data management specifically, digital preservation less so, but what we try to teach is kind of quite discipline specific, trying to get down to the nuts and bolts of what people are doing. And that's why many of the people who work at the ADS are archaeologists from backgrounds rather than data management or data science. And we found that a lot of when I go out and do training, a lot of people using ChatGPT and things like that to get their data management advice, which is fine. I think it does produce some good outputs, but not very well when you start thinking about disciplines, at least in archaeology. So I think that's where there could be a downfall. The other element in archaeology is that we're always battling against what we call pseudo-archaeology, which is where people are misinterpreting archaeological evidence and reinterpreting it into fanciful ways that sometimes make Netflix documentaries. And I think AI, I don't know if that is going to be useful in that endeavor because of accuracy concerns and things like that. But hopefully it could be actioned in such a way which it does fight back against those kind of things.
I don't actually see it as if you're speaking, I suppose, about algorithmic decision making, I don't see it as a huge step in relation specifically to that. I see the greater alteration, particularly in our sector, of generative AI specifically, and the risks that brings to our particular profession. But I obviously know that the impact of decision making, even with more traditional algorithmic based decision making, has always been an issue, I suppose. There's always had to be some form of decision making in algorithms existing. I think our concern is more actually the unknown of generative AI specifically, and that's what's concerning us a little bit.
Great. Well, a warm round of applause for our first three panelists. Thank you very much, everybody, for going first. We are now going to go to a break.